What up, dogs? I'm the dog. Welcome back to another GGE, a games, goals, and expectations video. So the next light weapon that I'm going to go over is going to be the Sting. So the Sting is absolute, to me, I believe, is absolute garbage of a weapon. Even maxed out, I don't think this thing is all that great. Absolute crap. It's a sin that it costs 2,000 gold to be so crap when you can't really use it in many situations. So I mean, if you want to use it, and eventually I will try to see some builds I can run it on, but to me, I just don't think that this is gonna be all that great of a weapon. So there's not that many that many robots that are actually going to be on this list I'm going to go over. So this is going to be a very fairly concise one, at least compared to the other ones. So that's, without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. I'm going to change robot here. All right. So the first one, I'm going to go ahead and skip a few over, is going to be, I'm going to go ahead and say the Bolt. So because it is a little dash spot and you do have 3 slots right there, that would probably be the best situation in which you can use something like the Sting. So you would be able to dash in and then shoot your shots and then really dash back out. And that's pretty much the only situation, one of the only situations in which that would really work out really well for you. I'm nothing to write home about, I guess, really all that much. But, if you're going to make, like I said, if you're going to make the best use out of something like the Sting, it's definitely going to be in a situation where you are definitely not exposed to enemy fire for very long. Next one is going to be the Stalker, for obvious reasons. So you got that stealth and whatnot. You definitely want to pop a few shots in and make sure that you have ample time to get behind cover. Next, I'm going to go ahead and mention the where is it at? The Griffin. So the Griffin is going to be the next level on the list. So if you were to run something like this, I wouldn't say that they technically entirely match up, but for the purpose of the corrosion effect that they boast, then yeah. So you'd pair like 2 Stings with a couple of Hornets, and then you would basically be making that kind of a little sniper build. And then of course the Hornets would be doing most of the firepower, but I just think that would be interesting. That would be because you'd only basically pop up to just shoot a few shots every now and then. You wouldn't be trying to expose yourself for too long, because it definitely would not make a good brawler at all. But I just think it would be fairly fun. And for the same reason, you could technically do it on a Strider too, just like you did in the Bolt. Of course, the top slot would be replaced with like a Hornet or something. Which would might make it interesting. The Hornet would be doing a lot of pulling power. And then obviously, of course, anytime I mention the Griffin, Raven's always going to be even better. So you'd have even more maneuverability to be able to do that with. Hopefully, you wouldn't get sniped out of the air too bad. If you were to use the pilot that gives you stealth, that probably I think it's Nessa rigs, I believe. Right. Next is going to be where is it at? The Pursuer. So you have significantly more firepower, or a little bit more firepower than using the Stalker. Therefore, it'd make it a little bit better, and you could, have way more module slot. Dang it! I didn't mean to click that. I meant to click this. You have many more module slots, so you can do quite a bit more with that than you could do with the Stalker. And then the next one, which would actually be really good, one of the best ways to use it, I think, would be the Loki. So anyone that does run a Loki, you know that you most of the time you're probably going to be running around capping beacons or whatnot, trying to stay in stealth, trying not to get hit, hoping most of your enemies don't have quantum radar. Now that being said, you can just, pull out your guns, pop off a few shots, and maybe go back into stealth and just keep running around and, working like that. And the thing is, with considering the fact that you have corrosion effects, that would actually work to your benefit, because you can just keep adding and adding that corrosion effect as much as you want without really having a consequence as to getting shot back if you know what you're doing. Next is going to be the tier. I would actually be fairly excited to use this one because you'd have this basically the same amount of firepower as the Griffin. So you'd have 2 stings and then 2 wasps. That would be really fun to use and whatnot. You can obviously you probably want to go ahead and stay back at like 600 meters so that you don't have to be in a situation where you'd be forced to brawl with weapons that aren't meant to brawl. But I think it'd be really, really fun to use a mid-range build like that. Next is going to be the Blitz. So in a situation where you aren't doing a whole lot of damage, of course, with a light weapon, you're going to want to have as many slots as possible in order to do that. So with the suppression ability, you make that much more usefulness out of a weapon that really does not do that much damage at all. And of course, it is pretty fast and whatnot, and then you do have that Aegis shield that protects you for a little bit. And the next is going to be and one that would actually be that's typically very good for a versatile weapon. It's going to be the Scorpion, I guess you could say. Now, this would be an interesting build, I guess, because typically, you would run, let's say you run a Sting and then 2 Wasps on this as well. Now, you have 600 meters, but I don't know that you would necessarily be using that. You might use it for a little bit, but most people that use the Scorpion are going to use it as an ambush spot. So you would be basically, teleporting behind somebody, shooting them a couple shots, and then immediately ducking back behind cover. So a weapon like the Sting more so than the Wasp would definitely be handy for that because you aren't shooting that many shots into them to begin with. Now, what is next? All right. Next is going to be another one. The one that I think would also really, really, really fun is running a corrosion type build on the Ares. So, of course, you would have those 2 wasps and 2 stings, but that would be really, really fun to shoot down. And, of course, you would have that absorber, shield, and retribution in order to lay down a little bit more hurt than this, because you basically have the same amount of firepower as the Griffin or the Raven or the Tier. All the same amount of firepower, other than the built-in weapons. Another one that would be really, really good, I believe, or for the purpose of trying to maximize the usefulness of those type of weapons, would be the Phantom. So you don't really have a whole lot of shots that you're jumping in anyway. So you'd probably want to probably make this pretty tanky. If you're getting that close, so that you can probably, do as much damage for the long term as possible until your ability is just about to run out, and then tap that button and dip right back behind cover. Like I said, this is a very concise one because I don't really think this weapon is going to be fairly effective in most situations. Next one is going to be the Khepri because, just usually a tank like the Khepri or a tanky type bot like the Khepri was always going to be kind of useful for making a weaker weapon shine as much as possible. So, of course, why not pick a weapon, so it's tanky, it's got 4 light slots, absolutely amazing job or absolutely amazing idea to use it on something like this because, it's a fairly quick bot, so you probably wouldn't have too much trouble getting behind cover if you really, really needed to. But the reload, the DPS on the Sting is kind of shit, but you also have a quick reload. So, if you have a bot that can be, absolutely super tanky like a Khepri, then that would probably be your best bet. Literally only a couple of other ones to mention. Next is going to be the usual suspect. It's going to be the Nether. So, most time when I talk about the Nether, I do, in fact, mention the fact that it's definitely a run and gun type of bot that you probably don't want to stay in the same spot for too long if you can help it. So, a weapon like Sting would perform the best on a robot like this because you're not expected to have a consistent, you're not expected to be aiming your guns for an extended period of time. So, something that can just like, pop, 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 pop every time you dash is very useful. And the next is going to be, actually what I'm going to go ahead and do real quick, I'm going to add Dagen to the list. Yoink. Just because it's already on here, might as well mention it. The Dagen, so it has 6 slots. So any light weapon that you would like to perform its absolute best, probably going to be on one that has the most slots. So a Dagen, I believe. So you'd be able to add significantly more corrosion on this build because you do have those 6 slots. So that would make, the Dagen can be made fairly tanky, and it is the most recent boss. So of course it's going to be super OP, or it's going to feel like it's pretty OP. So something like the Dagen is going to be able to make a weapon like the Sting shine more than other bots would. And because it does have 600 meters range, you would be able to kind of lay into somebody. Now, I'm not sure how the shot grouping is for like a Sting or whatnot, because I'm pretty sure, I'm not sure if it's considered a kinetic weapon. I just know that it is a corrosion type weapon. So you would probably want to make sure you are fairly accurate. I'm not sure if you could miss that many shots at 600 meters because there's not that many shots to shoot anyway, but you get the idea. And I'm not necessarily trying to rush through all these, but just think it would be. Now, the usual suspect that's usually last is going to be, one of those bots in the game. If I can just find the dang thing. The Golem. So, if you were to run the corrosion type on this, you would have the 1 Sting, the 1 Wasp, and then the 1 Hornet. Now, when they first came out, the Viper was considered kind of part of that trio instead of the Wasp. I mean, the Hornet, but I think it's mostly down to like the type of firing mechanism it has. Because if you notice, the Viper is more like a kind of a machine gun type. It kind of shoots like energy balls, whereas the Hornet is definitely more like a sniper, more like a mid-range sniper type build. So yeah, that would be really, really fun if you would max that out, I believe. And there's no telling what kind of how many different levels of corrosion you can add with adding 3 different hard points, all firing you at the same time. Now, of course, definitely wouldn't be anything that you would want to try to brawl with. It probably would be in your best interest to try to keep it at a mid-range if you can help it. But I think, the Golem is just one of those nostalgic robots that, would probably make anything fun if you're running it in the right league. But that is going to wrap up this, comprehensive video about the little Sting. There's not really that much to say about them. They're not really all that, relevant in today's game. They did get kind of like a tiny little buff, I believe, where it went from 5 shots to 6 shots or whatever. But, they just really do not perform all that well that I know of. Even if you uberfy them, they're nothing to write a hood about, I don't think, because otherwise people would be running them all the time in Champions League and stuff like that. I still think it's it can be fun if you want to, but I wouldn't necessarily, personally, I wouldn't recommend that you invest in them. But if you want to, that's your own personal choice. But that's, like I said, that's going to wrap up this video. If you liked it, remember to leave a like and subscribe if you have not already. And I will see you in the next video. Underdog. Oh!